Please note that this is all alleged. I've never met any of these people. I've deeply researched all of my information. This is a trigger warning. In this video, I may be talking about or showing sensitive material about some subjects or topics that may be disturbing or upsetting or may bring forth some troubling memories, as you read in the description or title. With that said, either end the video now or brace yourself. Aside from that, enjoy. Hello, my truth seekers. In this video, I will reveal some of history's lies. The knowledge that was taught to all people of all races was a doctrine to keep white supremacists in the image of power and innocence, and keep Negroes in the image of only enslaved people, while the Caucasian men still plagiarized and rewrote our history. This is why we're so behind as people of all nations. It's not about power, and it's not about who gains what. It's about the truth.
Underachievers like Einstein, the German kid who was just like you. Despite his sincerest efforts, he could never manage to do well in his math exams and struggled desperately with physics while working as a lowly patent clerk. The muddled kid grew up to be Albert Einstein. The truth is that Einstein was inept and a moronic person who could not even tie his own shoelaces. He controlled nothing original to the field of quantum mechanics nor any other science. On the contrary, he stole the ideas of others, and media made him into a freaking hero. When we actually examine the life of Albert Einstein, we find that his only brilliance was in his ability to plagiarize and steal other people's ideas, passing them off as his own. Einstein's education, or lack thereof, is an important part of this story, so listen carefully. The Encyclopedia Britannica says of Einstein's early education that he showed little scholastic ability. It also says that at the age of 15 years old, with poor grades in history, geography, and languages, he left school with no diploma. Oh no. Einstein himself wrote in a school paper of his lack of imagination and practical ability. In 1895, yes, 1895, Einstein failed a simple entrance exam to an engineering school in Zurich. The exam consisted mainly of mathematical problems, and Einstein showed himself to be mathematically inept in this exam. He then entered a lesser school, hoping to use it as a stepping stone to the engineering school he could not get into. But after graduating in 1900, he still could not get a position at that engineering school. Unable to go to the school as he had so desperately wanted, he got a job with the help of a friend at the patent office in Bern. He was to be a technical expert, that's considered third class, which meant that he was not competent to hold a higher qualified position. Even after publishing his so-called groundbreaking papers of 1905 and after working in the patent office for 6 years, he was only evaluated and elevated to a second-class standing. Remember, the work he was doing at the patent office, for which he was only rated third class, was not quantum mechanics or theoretical physics, but was reviewing technical documents of patents of everyday things. Yet he was barely qualified. He will work at the patent office until 1909, all the while continuously trying to get a position at a university. But without success, all of these facts are true, but now begins the myth. Supposedly, while working a full-time job, without the aid, of university colleagues as staff, graduate students, a laboratory, or any of these normal associates with an academic setting, Einstein, in his spare time, wrote 4 groundbreaking essays in the field of theoretical physics and quantum mechanics that were published in 1905. Many people have recognized the impossibility of such a feat, including Einstein himself, and therefore Einstein has led people to believe that many of these ideas came to him in his sleep, out of the blue. Because, indeed, that is only the logical explanation of how adamantly inept moron could have written such documents at the age of 26 years old without any real education. The truth is, he stole these ideas and plagiarized the papers. Therefore, we will look at each of these ideas and discover the source of each. It should be remembered that these ideas are presented by Einstein's worshippers as totally new and completely different, each of which would change the landscape of science. These 4 papers dealt with the following 4 ideas respectively: the foundation of photon theory of light, the equivalence of energy and mass, the explanation of Brownian motion of liquids, the special theory of relativity. Let us first look at the last of these theories, the theory of relativity. This is perhaps the most famous idea falsely attributed to Einstein. Specifically, this 1905 paper dealt with what Einstein called the special theory of relativity. The general theory would come in 1915. This theory contradicted the traditional Newtonian mechanics and was based upon 2 premises. This theory has been validated by modern experiments, and it is the basis of modern physics. But these two premises are far from original. Einstein's, first of all, the idea that the speed of light was constant and was independent of the motion of its source was not Einstein's at all, but was proposed by Scottish scientist James Maxwell in 1878. Maxwell studied phenomenon of light extensively and first proposed that it was electromagnetic in nature. James Maxwell wrote in an article to this effect for the 1878 edition of Encyclopedia Britannica. His ideas prompt much debate, and by 1887, as a result of this work and the ensuing debate, the scientific community, particularly Lorentz and Morley, reached the conclusion that the velocity of light was independent of the velocity of observer. Thus, this piece of special theory of relativity was known 27 years before Einstein wrote his freaking paper. Please follow to learn more. The debate over the nature of light also led Michelson and Morley to conduct an important experiment, the result of which could not be explained by Newtonian mechanics. They observed a phenomenon caused by relativity, but they did not understand relativity. They had attempted to detect the motion of the Earth through ether, which was a medium thought to be necessary for the propagation of light. In response to this problem, in 1880, the Irish physicist George Fitzgerald, who had also first proposed mechanism of producing radio waves, that the results of the Michelson-Morley experiment could be explained if the length of material bodies change according as they are moving through the ether across it by the amount depending on the square of the ratio of their velocities to that of the light. This is the theory of relativity, 13 years before Einstein wrote his freaking paper. Further, in 1892, Hendrik Lorentz of the Netherlands proposed the same solution and began to greatly expand the idea. All throughout the 1890s, both Lorentz and Fitzgerald worked on these ideas and wrote articles strangely similar to Einstein's special theory, detailing what is now known as Lorentz-Fitzgerald contraction. To learn more, please follow.
We all know the story of Noah's Ark, animals 2 by 2, flood comes, wipes out abomination, yada yada. But let's talk about what happened on the ship. Now here's some more evidence on why these people may have been black. It's not about color, it's just about why they lied. So Ham uncovered his father's nakedness. What does uncovered his father's nakedness? It means he slept with Noah's wife while Noah got drunk. Here's Genesis 9:22, and if you read on the next chapter, it tells you what it is and why it's a no-no. So he went and told his 2 brothers, and instead of going along with him, they went and covered Noah. And by the commandments, he cursed Ham's seed. So after the flood, they found wives and became fruitful. Ham begot Cush, Mizraim, Canaan, and Put. A lot of the new translations will use his son Mizraim as the name of Egypt, the land of Canaan, Canaan. So Ham became the forefather of Egypt, which brings down their seed. In Hebrew, Ham means blackness, Cham. If he is black, that means Noah is black, and these two by the father's seed.
Hello, I am Moses. I am a significant figure in the ancestral background of the African race, which was the original human species, commonly known as the Hebrews. According to the biblical account, I was born into a Hebrew family in Egypt during a time when the Pharaoh had ordered all male Hebrew babies to be killed. I was hidden in a basket and set adrift on the Nile River, where I was found and raised by the Pharaoh's daughter. As an adult, I fled Egypt after killing an Egyptian who was mistreating a Hebrew slave. I spent many years in the wilderness, during which time I encountered a burning bush that God spoke to me through. God told me that I had been chosen to lead the Hebrew people out of slavery in Egypt and into the Promised Land. I returned to Egypt, and with the help of my brother Aaron, confronted the Pharaoh and demanded that he let the Hebrew people go. After a series of plagues, the Pharaoh relented and allowed the Hebrews to leave. I then led them on a journey through the wilderness, during which I received the 10 Commandments from God. Despite facing many trials and tribulations, I remained faithful to God and led the Hebrew people to the edge of the Promised Land before passing away. I am remembered as a great prophet and leader who devoted my life to serving God and helping his people, my people.
Enter the stars, and welcome to the latest revelation in our nested reality. iPetGoat 2, the animation you're seeing right now, was released in 2012. And in this scene, the heavens opened up upon the phallic booster. The question is, what is it boosting? I believe the answer lies in this scene, the blue blood. You can see the phallic imagery center screen, as well as in the upper right in the clouds, in the lower right hand corner in the mountains. And when I look at this scene, the word injection comes to mind, as the scene is bathed in blue and white. You see, Amazon has always been about the blue blood and the phallic imagery. Look at Michael Jordan and his blue eyes in this Alexa Amazon ad for the Super Bowl, and watch the Amazon symbol stretch across the bathtub from him to her beneath the water. So now that we know what the blue origin really means, we can also figure out what Apollo's arrow really means in the connection to all of this. What did Apollo's arrow really do? And is that the reason why the astronauts named the Apollo mission to the moon after Apollo? And is this why Bezos is following in the Apollo mission footsteps by naming his aircraft the New Shepard after one of the first men in space? I don't know about you, but I don't want a new shepherd. I want Yahuwah, Jesus Christ, as my shepherd. And I want to take the narrow gate home, not the wide gate. So the question becomes, who will be the first billionaire to crack the firmament? That's what this race is all about.
Contrary to popular belief, African American history did not start with slavery. An overwhelming body of new evidence is emerging, which proves that Africans had frequently sailed across the Atlantic to the Americas thousands of years before Columbus, and indeed before other civilizations. The strongest evidence of African presence in America before Columbus comes from an eyewitness account of Columbus himself. In 1920, a renowned historian and linguist, Leo Wiener of Harvard University, in his book Africa and the Discovery of America, explained how Columbus noted in his journal that Native Americans had confirmed that black-skinned people had come from the southeast in boats, trading in gold-tipped spears. Ever since Christopher Columbus first suggested that black Africans preceded him, a number of scholars investigated this contention. In his Journal of the Second Voyage, this was recorded in Racolta Part 1, Volume 1. Quote, Curious about the validity of this story, Columbus did indeed send samples of these spears back on a mail ship to Spain to be examined, and it was found that the ratio of properties of gold, copper and silver alloy were identical to the spears then being forged in West African Guinea. Although eyewitness accounts of early European explorers may be the best evidence of an African presence in the New World that preceded Columbus, it is certainly not the only evidence. So let's keep digging. Take a look at a map of the world and study the west coast of Africa and the east coast of South America. Slide the two continents towards each other and you can see an almost perfect jigsaw fit. However fascinating this may be, I'd like us to focus on a different aspect between these two land masses, their proximity to each other. When you take a closer look at things, Africa and South America aren't actually very far apart from each other. The closest tips of each continent are less than 3,000 kilometers away, making Africa the closest inhabited area to the Americas. Furthermore, off the coast of Africa are also the Cape Verde Islands that make a suitable restocking station for sailors. If launched from here, the trip to South America would be about 2,500 kilometers. You see, African explorers crossing the vast Atlantic waters in ships may seem unlikely, or perhaps far-fetched to some. The incredible seafaring achievement is not as daunting as it seems, given that many successful modern attempts have illustrated that without an oar, rudder or sail, ancient African boats, including the dugout canoe, would certainly have been able to cross the vast ocean in a matter of weeks. The voyages were made possible mostly because of the prevailing wind patterns and ocean currents that all blow from Africa to, you guessed it, South America. These are the same winds and currents that were later used by Europeans during the transatlantic slave trade when shipping slaves from Africa. If you look closely,
You see how they got it a sky view? This is a sky view. This is this that I was just showing you. This is what this looked like from an east to west view. This is what that looked like, baby. When they got over here, that's what they saw, baby. They know what they saw, baby. Greatness. Come on, Moors, stand up. They know what they saw, baby. Greatness. You think we ain't had this whole land on lock? Come on, man. Come on, man. Slaves ain't built no White House. We did. We built all this. Moors did, baby. Ancient Morocco. Now, I'm gonna go back to this, because remember, if the new Morocco was founded in 1952, then that must have been the people that purchased this land and took the Jerusalem from over here and threw it over there. They took Morocco from over here and threw it over there, because we can find letters from George Washington writing to the Sultan of Morocco. So if the Morocco that's established over there in 1952, if that was just established, then this must have been the Morocco he was writing to. That's why they got Cahokia, Illinois, and you also got a Cahokia in what? Exactly, or Cairo, shall I say. You got a Cairo, Illinois, and they say the Cahokia mounds. We got a lot of mounds over here. We were mound builders. They didn't want to call us pyramid builders. They called us mound builders. Let's keep that in mind. You see, we got Tennessee over here, Idaho, fraternity. You see what I'm saying? Look at that. Virginia, Georgia. Come on, man. Like it never stops. You see, Missouri was way up here. So we in Missouri. I'm in Missouri right now, but how Missouri way up here? How is this a map of the land that I'm on right now? But Missouri is just this little teeny place next to Louisiana and Wisconsin and Ohio, New York. Why is New York all the way over here? How is New York all the way over here? Ohio, New York, Massachusetts, Minnesota. So clearly we had these places. North Jerusalem. For those who claim they're Israelites but don't even know where Israel is, this is Jerusalem, the holy city, buddy. Sorry, you got Iowa, you got Mississippi, and mind you, if you're wondering why it looks so confusing, you should be. They flipped your whole world upside down. So you see south is north, north is south, east is west, west is east. So you have to learn a whole new form of directions. And remember, that right there, if you're wondering where that compass comes from, I'll show you. The compass that you see, if you know nothing about the quote-unquote Mayan calendar, they do. It's right there, see? Make windows out of it, make all kinds of signs out of it. Let's keep that in mind. So that's where your compass comes from. This is how we knew how to navigate, right? Seeing that quote-unquote what they call Mayan calendar, what we call it the moral compass and mental magic. Of course, because we do not go by anybody else's name. Names. Yeah, they said that we'd never rise again, so hey. I just wanted to show y'all one more time So you can see just how deep this was and how good this particular land itself is. Instead of going everywhere else and looking everywhere else, remember the west is east, the east.
This is about to blow your mind. Title 29, State Government, General Provisions. Chapter 1, Jurisdiction and Sovereignty. The Lenape Indian Tribe of Delaware, referred to as the Tribe in this section, has an unbroken history of hundreds of years of settlement and continued residency in the vicinity of the town of Cheswold in Kent County. The tribe was formerly known as the Moors, and for many decades of the 20th century, state documents such as driver's licenses designated the tribe's race as M. The Delaware School Code of 1929 provided that the State Board of Education could establish a school for the children of people called Moors. Smithsonian Institute issued an annual report in 1948 in which the tribe was referred to as the Moors of Kent County, Delaware.
For the Greeks and Romans, the Egyptians were Africans, and when you get depictions of Egyptians, they're always shown people with black skin, afro hair, sort of small noses, broad faces, full mouths. So they actually sort of have a caricature almost of what they see as an Egyptian. And the Greeks often confused Egypt with Ethiopia, so they'll quite often call the Egyptians Ethiopians. So obviously somebody with a dark face. And when they showed Ethiopians, they showed them in exactly the same way that they showed Egyptians as Africans. So there was no question at all that Egypt was an African country. It certainly wasn't seen to be European by either the Greeks or the Romans.
When the last of the Nubian kings, Tawentimetti, fought his last conflict with Ashurbanipal, who was the Assyrian...
This can't be, man. What? You know what this is? What is it, Buddha? It's the Book of Life. Book of Life. In the beginning, when man arrived on Earth, the black gods did leave their spacecraft, and they walked, and they named the beasts of the sea and the animals of the land. Heavens. And man in his blackness did walk the earth, making medicine. Medicine? They discovered type. These were all black people got down. Wait a minute. There ain't nothing in here about whitey. This is ours, Jack. Wait till the brothers hear this. Buddha. I'm gonna get this book out of here, baby. This tells the real tea. Buddha, control yourself, don't you see? What you mean, Jack? Look at this here. Black people started the music and the brain surgery back in the year 3 BC. Yes, of course, Buddha. Man, they was getting down. This is it, brother. Yes, everybody gonna know about this. Listen, we can change the history. Civilization will be changed. Yeah, this is gonna be it.
Get the bulldozers, there's nothing here.
But.
Shut up! Good heavens, time for tea, eh? What?
They classified Egyptians as Caucasian, and this classification was given to modern Egyptians immigrating to the U.S. Dr. Mustafa Hefni, a self-proclaimed black Egyptian, points out the irony of this racist and deceptive practice.
I came to the U.S. in 1978. And I became a U.S. citizen in 1985. When I became a U.S. resident, I was told by the Immigration and Naturalization that I am white. And I told them that I'm black, and they said, no, in this country, you are white. All Arabs in this country, all Arab immigrants are white. The attitude towards me changed completely after I went out publicly and rejected my white classification. In '88, I was told by him that I get people angry when I say that I'm black Egyptian. If I just say that I'm Egyptian, I would get along. We don't have Egyptians of European descent in Egypt. We have a population which is basically a mixture of ancient Egyptian blacks who intermarried with Arabs right after the Arab conquest. The ancient Egyptian population was brown and black. The ancient Egyptian population was in Egypt for thousands of years, and the Greeks came in 300 BC, and they started to intermarry with the local population, and then the Romans came and ruled from 70 BC until they were conquered by the Arabs and kicked out by the Arabs in the 7th century. And these people intermarried with the Egyptian Copts. And they made the pigmentation of the Egyptians, the Copts, much lighter because of this intermarriage with Europeans.
Modern concepts of race and ethnicity can be tricky because the ancients did not consider skin color the source of identity. The term black, as it is regarded today, denotes race and was created to sow division. The discovery of the Rosetta Stone and translation of the ancient hieroglyphs, originally known as Medu Neter, made Western scholars rethink their narrative. Newly transcribed inscriptions revealed an advanced culture that had attained an exceptionally high level of development. They coined the term Sub-Saharan Africa as a way to separate the genius of Egypt from the rest of the continent. So began the attempt of scholars to remove ancient Egypt from Africa.
Many of the early archaeologists came to the study of ancient Egypt and ancient Nubia from the perspective of Semitic languages or the study of the Hebrew Bible. And it was very important to them to bring Egypt specifically into the sphere of biblical studies. And so they had to carve Egypt away from Africa to bring it into that sphere. And the way that they did that was they used race. So these early archaeologists effectively made ancient Egypt white in the sense that they made it part of a dominant Western culture, and ancient Nubia was separated from that. It was black. And this was how they took Egypt out of Africa and put it into this Semitic sphere, this biblical sphere.
And the Egyptians call their land Kemet, and they use a piece of charcoal, a burnt piece of wood as charcoal, to symbolize what they mean, the blackest black. And all of their carvings of themselves, they paint their skins dark brown or black. They have white paint, red paint, yellow paint, but they paint themselves black. How anyone in the world, with so much information available for the public to see, can even be under any illusions that the Egyptian was even light-skinned.
Just when you look at climate and weather, if you go to Egypt, you will notice that the weather is quite hot. And you will notice that it is almost impossible to be able to be outside dressed the way the carvings on the walls are as it relates to the people. Because you would get melanoma before we even knew melanoma existed. So they could not have been depigmented or less pigmented. They have to have been.
Maleficent, they called her race of people the Moors. And the Moors are, and I just saw it again. I was just like, yo, if you erase our history, like most black people, we don't know where we come. We think we came from slaves. We don't know our bloodline.
The two civilizations or the two cultures that are most often obfuscated, obscured, corrupted by Western academics are Egypt and the Moors. For essentially the same reason. White, quote-unquote, supremacist views said we can't allow these people who we know are distinctly African, that we would misname black or Negro. We can't recognize that these are the people that were our tutors.
And guess who's on the original cross called an Ankh, which means eternal life? It's a black woman with an afro. So what would we do if we found out that we got eternal life and our salvation through a black woman instead of the white man put on the cross? What would we do?
Right. I mean,
would we turn around and then say, hey, let's worship black women? Because no matter if I go to Islam, Judaism, or Christianity, when we see that even in the Vatican, they worship a black Madonna, no matter where we go, we keep seeing the worship of black women. If we look at a mosque, we want to call it a mosque, but we don't want to call it a nipple. We can go into Hebrew, the word El Shaddai, right? But if we understand that Hebrew has an ideographic and pictographic disposition, then we know each letter means and represents something. So we can look up Sheen, which looks like this. It represents teeth. Then you have Daleth, right? And Daleth represents what? So you said you have Sheen, Daleth, and you have Yod. When the Daleth and the Yod get together, it pronounced a long I sound. So you get Shaddai. So now we have Sheen, Daleth, and Yod. So Sheen represents teeth, and Daleth represents nipple or knob. And then you have Yod, which represents hand. And this is the word for what? The force that they translate. It translated as the force, but it's one of the names of God in the Bible, in the Torah. They call him El Shaddai, right? So, and El means power, right? So the power from what or of what? Well, if they calling God El Shaddai, it's very interesting that they should call God El Shaddai. Because if we break it down based on Hebrew, ideographic and pictographic terminology, Sheen represents teeth, Daleth represents nipple or knob, and Yod represents the hand. So where do you see teeth on a nipple and a hand? Breastfeeding. So they identify God through the convention of breastfeeding. Why? Because you get something from your creator that you can't get from no one else. It's called colostrum fluid. Colostrum fluid is this yellow liquidy fluid that you get primarily inside the first 3 months of breastfeeding. And what it accounts for is the consciousness of the child. It enhances the immunity of the child. It enhances the digestive system of the child. And if your digestion was doing very good, but your intelligence or IQ was low, then that colostrum fluid, what it does, it equalizes it. It brings you up to standard. It's made exclusively for the child that it was made for. So we get something from our creator that we can't get from nobody else. Hence the reason why they would identify God as Shaddai and why they would build monuments that have breast shapes on top of it and call it mosque, but put a nipple on top because we was venerating the procreative abilities of the woman. But what would we do if we found out this was all true? We just go back to worshiping men. But you see, as a man, I worship women.
Okay, here's another one that we see all the time. People see it, but I don't think that many know what it really means. The Ankh symbol has influenced tattoos and jewelry, and organizations associate themselves with the symbol as a trademark. The Ankh is the Egyptian hieroglyphic symbol for life and eternity, and is often referred to as the original cross, where it represents the unity between male and female. The loop of the Ankh represents the womb of a woman, and the vertical line represents the male genital. Now, to other people, they primarily see it as a representation of the woman. Where the loop is, it's still the womb, but the vertical line, they believe, is the birth canal. Either way, the Ankh or Crux Ansata is a symbol for life. A dictionary of mysticism explains the Ankh as the Egyptian cross shaped like a capital T with an oval loop on the top, symbol of life in occult tradition. It was used by the gods as an instrument for awakening the dead to a new life. The Ankh is an ancient symbol for immortality, fertility. A former witch has revealed the Ankh as an emblem to identify the wearer as a worshiper of the sun god Ra, a seeker of the Satanist beliefs, and one who practices the worship to the unknown gods of the supernatural. The wearer acknowledges the sun god Ra, works the voodoo of this unseen world through his hex. If you are a believer, you should not be wearing this symbol. This has been a big trend over the past couple of decades within black culture. People believe that because the Ankh has been around for thousands of years and comes from Egypt, it's a great thing that has become a fad because now it brings knowledge to African people. People that have claimed the Egyptian beliefs as their original beliefs love this symbol. Now, I will be speaking about this as a complete topic separately, but the point I'm making is that people are wearing the satanic symbol as a show of pride for what they feel is their original culture. And the ironic thing is that it has nothing to do with their original culture. That's another story. In their hieroglyphs, the Egyptian gods and kings are often shown carrying the Ankh to distinguish them from mere mortals. The Ankh symbolized eternal life and bestowed immortality on anyone who possessed it. It is believed that life energy emanating from the Ankh can be absorbed by anyone within certain proximity. An Ankh serves as an antenna or conduit for the divine power of life that permeates the universe. The amulet is a powerful talisman that provides the wearer with protection from the evil forces of decay and degeneration. They believe it represents spirit, mind, and matter. This symbol has definitely been made popular by pop culture when many mainstream artists like Beyonce, Rihanna, or Erykah Badu have worn it.
really know who we are? Do we know the powers that we were born with? Do we know why when all other races have 6 strands of DNA, we were blessed with 9? Do you know the reason why the Europeans have it out for us? Do you know why we are the laughingstock of this planet? We will never know until we grow some spine and rise up. We are the only people who call ourselves dogs, and when we keep getting kicked, we never bite. We have no problem taking out our rage against one another, but we have a mental lapse when it comes to our oppressors. We would rather twerk than read. We would rather sag than learn. We love the he say, she say, hearsay, but we don't search for our own information. We listen to the preacher read and understand the Bible for us. That's unintelligent intelligence. We say this isn't a real reality. If we know that, then why don't we use our gifts to alter this reality? Many of us who have the understanding already do. Instead of using our tools, the ones who speak are viewed as fools. We are nothing because we want to be nothing. We are still marching and trying to overcome. We need to pull up our pants and become. We like to be cool and trending while befriending our oppressors. In this current time, our greatest oppressors are ourselves. There are a group of us who will do whatever it takes for us not to succeed. There are a group of blacks put strategically in places to ensure that their plan is fulfilled. We'll just call them the ones who used to cook and clean for the masters while the others worked.